Tansen Natutemak, TR Wheatley, Nisagasun, Opasquac, Uchinina. Welcome to APTN National News for this Wednesday morning and afternoon. The Keepers of the Water, a non-profit environmental group in Alberta, teamed with other environmental groups and the chief of the Cold Lake First Nations on Monday to demand the proposed Pathways Alliance project be stopped. The project would capture CO2 from multiple oil sands and store it underground hundreds of kilometers away. APTN's Chris Stewart has more.
The Alberta oil sands produce the highest levels of CO2 in Canada, the gas that causes global warming. Pathways Alliance is a collaboration of 6 of the biggest oil companies, and they want to build a 400-kilometer-long pipeline from Fort McMurray to spots around the Cold Lake area. The pipeline would contain trapped CO2, and Keepers of the Water say it will use water to transfer it and store it underground. It's called the Pathways Alliance CCUS project, and it's a $16 billion project. The recent federal budget allows a 60% tax credit for carbon capture investments. Jesse Cardinal, the executive director of Keepers of the Water, says CO2 is a huge issue, but the lack of water and contamination issues make the project unviable.
So yes, there's a problem. Is the solution to use massive amounts of water and pipe it down and store it underground in the Cold Lake, Elk Point, and St. Paul area? No, because there are a lot of people in that region that have water wells. They have groundwater wells. So you cannot be mixing toxic liquid waste into underground reservoirs.
Mark Dorn has worked for decades in the oil and gas industry. He says a leak is not a matter of if, but when.
It's troubling, to say the least, that all federal and provincial political parties support CCUS. I question who their technical advisors are. I question the soundness of their decisions. And I know that the oil industry spends some $50 million heavily lobbying governments at all levels for subsidy of their industry with essentially no countervailing lobbies at all.
And Cold Lake First Nations chief does not want this pipeline on his land.
They talk about reconciliation, but all this stuff happens, bills passes without our consent or even knowledge about it. You know, even when we give input, you know, they're just totally ignored.
Pathways Alliance President Kendall Dilling sent a statement to APTN that read, in part, carbon capture and storage is a proven technology used around the world, including here in Canada. According to the Global CCS Institute's 2025 report, there are 77 carbon capture and storage projects in operation, 47 under construction, 313 in early development, and 297 in advanced development. The office of Tim Hodson, the Federal Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, told APTN in a statement, in part, that the new federal government's approach to building major projects is grounded in partnership with Indigenous right holders. We will always work with impacted Indigenous peoples to ensure their concerns are heard and addressed in a meaningful way. The Office of the Alberta Minister of Environment and Protected Areas also sent a statement which reads in part, claims that the Pathways Project or any other CCUS initiative will lead to water shortages or create dangerous environmental risks are scientifically wrong. No water will be in this pipeline, which will move CO2 as a compressed gas. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Chris, a proposed law to make forced sterilization a criminal offense in Canada has passed first reading in the House of Commons. Bill S-228 was introduced and passed in the Senate. It now has to go through the process with members of Parliament. Conservative MP Jamie Schmall, the opposition critic for Crown Indigenous Relations, introduced the bill in the House. He says Indigenous peoples are disproportionately affected by forced and coerced sterilizations in Canada. The bill aims to criminalize this act under the Criminal Code and ensure no one is sterilized without their consent. The Survivors Circle for Reproductive Justice attended the hearing. Survivors spoke with APTN News to share the importance of this bill moving forward, including Nicole Rabbit. She says multiple members of her family experienced forced sterilization.
Why did this happen to us? Why did this happen to the Indigenous people? And then to look at just my family, you know, my mother, me, and my niece, you know, 3 generations. With this bill, it's giving us hope. You know, we're no longer, you know, not being heard. We're actually being heard. And this bill, you know, is going to give Canada the opportunity to see that it actually is still happening to Indigenous women, and it needs to stop.
The tremendous opportunity that's currently before the House of Commons to address these systemic wrongdoings, and to really take concrete action to solidify the ongoing legacy of Canada and their relationship with Indigenous women, Two-Spirit, and male survivors. And this bill is definitely put that opportunity before the House of Commons to you know, really look at what do they want that legacy to be going forward, and you know, creating a legacy that honors Indigenous women and their bodies and their reproductive choice and their fertility and their power and strength.
And Nunavut has a new premier. Recently elected MLAs in the territory have been selecting the government's new speaker, premier, and cabinet by secret ballot earlier this week.
Thank you.
South Baffin MLA David Jonassi was selected as House Speaker Tuesday. Then the forum turned to the premier's seat. Arvia North MLA John Main was selected to lead the next government. 2 candidates were nominated for the position, Main and David Agigaguk. And Main and Agigaguk held multiple ministry titles in the last Legislative Assembly. The Leadership Forum will continue into the night, it continued last night until all leadership positions were filled. Our Iqaluit video journalist will have more on the new Nunavut government on tonight's APTN National News. An iconic building at Higgins and Main in Winnipeg is on track to get new life. The Indigenous Cultural Center has gone into decline over the last 25 years, but by spring next year, it could have a new roof. CTV's Harrison Shin explains the announcement is bringing a healing effect to the Indigenous community.
New hope is on the way to the Circle of Life Thunderbird House.
Everybody in the office was pretty ecstatic. Over a third of our employee workforce is Indigenous.
Director Peter Parkman's company Arrow will take on the repair of this building's copper roof. What started as a gathering space for the Indigenous community 25 years ago has become an eyesore at Main and Higgins.
It deteriorated due to people stealing the copper from the roof during the pandemic. So that's the reason why the building has fallen into disrepair.
Thunderbird House was taken over by community advocates in May this year who said they wanted to restore its original purpose of cultural healing, gathering, and unity.
We've heard from members of the community that we didn't think we're aware of what was going on, and they've reached out and expressed their absolute joy that work is finally getting done.
Michael Red at Champaign once said in his blog, quote, "The health of Indigenous people in Winnipeg can be seen in the upkeep and maintenance of the building." He hopes for unity going forward.
I think the next step for the Thunderbird House is for both of the groups that have been active at the Thunderbird House, both at the board and at the Occupy level, both have opportunities to have their voices heard and their concerns raised.
Harrison Shin, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Still in Manitoba, the provincial throne speech happened in Winnipeg on Tuesday afternoon, officially opening up the 3rd session of the 43rd Manitoba Legislature. The speech was read in English by Manitoba Lieutenant Governor Anita Neville. New this year, copies of the speech were printed entirely in Anishinaabe-Muwin, which of course is a language Premier Wab Kinew speaks and relates to. The speech focused on the NDP commitment to prioritize healthcare and to improve public safety by tackling the province-wide drug crisis, with specific mention of working with the Manitoba Kiwetunwi Ugumaganak, who represents 26 Northern First Nations, to take action on preventing meth and other drugs from entering their communities. As well, getting the Port of Churchill up and running in partnership with Indigenous communities.
A multi-billion-dollar investment in Churchill would transform our economy for generations. We know there is no nation building without Indigenous nations, so we are pursuing this potential project the right way. In true partnership with First Nations and the Red River Métis, we will enshrine Canada's first Crown Indigenous corporation into law. Working with the Major Projects Officer and the Arctic Gateway Group, the Manitoba Crown Indigenous Corporation will build the best businesses and environmental case for a trade corridor to Churchill. To expand the shipping season, we will conduct a feasibility study this winter. If we secure a major project, we will make sure it has major impact with additional revenue supporting all-weather roads that can connect the poorest kids in our province from isolated communities with opportunities.
We now want to tell you about one of this week's web poll questions. Over on our website, we ask, do you support the proposed expansion of the Port of Churchill? And of course, your options are yes, no, and unsure. You can go to our website, aptnnews.ca/poll, to cast your ballot. Time for a quick break. More news from Manitoba and Quebec when we come back. Cheskwa. Pitigwe, a new culturally safe space for youth is set to literally take to the streets of Joliette in Quebec. Stephanie Desèvres was present at the unveiling of the four-wheeled project at the Indigenous Friendship Center of Lanaudière.
On s'est dit, on va faire une caravane éducative. Bref, la caravane.
Jessica Jérôme, a Mi'kmaq artist, designed the trailer's exterior, in particular, the three bears. Stéphanie Bonsaint is the education project manager for 5 to 12 years old at the Indigenous Friendship Center of Lanaudière.
On l'a appelé Mascousuin, Mascou qui veut dire l'ours. L'ours est un animal important pour la culture parce que c'est un des 7 animaux sacrés.
The trailer is equipped for the comfort of the children.
Donc, on planifie d'aller chercher les enfants avec la caravane, puis d'apporter la remorque dans un parc où que les enfants vont pouvoir aller jouer dehors, mais un coup qu'ils ont froid, ils vont pouvoir entrer, boire un chocolat chaud avec notre petite plaque chauffante.
It was designed to be a place to meet and learn, which Kiki, an Atikamekw mother of 2, finds ideal.
Je la trouve parfaite pour les enfants, pour les besoins qui vont avoir lieu ici.
The trailer is actually the center's second mobile service unit.
On a tout le rangement ici pour les bandages, faire de la sensibilisation, de la prévention et de l'enseignement aussi.
It was preceded by Mikanak, a mobile medical clinic.
On a une grosse partie qui est pour faire des soins. Donc, on voulait un lieu vraiment plus grand, plus accessible pour les enfants qui puissent rentrer, qui voulaient jouer. On a vu là, quand les enfants voient la clinique mobile, ils sont contents, ils veulent tous rentrer. Là, on devient coincé rapidement. Donc, avec la remorque, mais ça agrandit les services.
Mélanie Champagne is a special education technician. Previously, she would use a mobile clinic. From now on, she will travel with the trailer to offer nature classes and language stimulation in schools and at home.
On va aller dans les parcs, continuer d'aller faire les classes nature en forêt. On va avoir un coin là, où est-ce qu'on peut aussi soit aller se réchauffer ou prendre une pause, faire des activités vraiment de stimulation à proximité là, avec les jeunes.
Language development is at the heart of the new trailer.
Un exemple, ça pourrait être de travailler le tour de rôle, de se lancer le ballon ensemble, de piger des mots, par exemple, des figurines, puis de venir dire, par exemple, soleil, ou tu sais, qu'est-ce que, pour travailler là, certains mots.
The trailer is a place of endless possibilities.
Je vais donner des cours de ukulélé, je vais donner des cours de piano, on va faire la percussion.
People reacted positively to the trailer.
On a des sorties classe nature aussi, qu'on s'en va jouer dans le bois avec les enfants, mais on va pouvoir apporter la remorque avec nous.
Including Jano Ottawa, an Atikamekw from Manawan. He's happy that his children will be able to enjoy it.
C'est sûr que j'aurais participé à des activités. Ouais. C'est sûr que les jeunes, dans mon jeune temps, on aurait aimé avoir ça.
139 young people, ranging from children to 18-year-olds, are registered for activities at the Indigenous Friendship Center of Lanaudière.
Ça fait en sorte qu'on est visible aussi pour les enfants. T'sais, si on arrive au parc, ils peuvent voir c'est notre roulotte, c'est notre remorque qui est là. Ils savent qu'ils sont les bienvenus, qu'ils peuvent venir en tout temps dans leur espace.
The trailer is now ready to serve the community. Stéphanie Desèvres, APTN National News, Joliette, Québec.
Tapwege, Stephanie. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can join the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Time for one last break. When we come back, we take you to my neck of the woods to hear about an interesting bird exhibit. Chesqua. Ottawa, welcome back. Starting on the East Coast, St. John 7, Charlottetown 4, Kuujjuaq 1, Nain 2, Chibougamau -5, Quebec City 2, North Bay -5, Sault Ste. Marie 2 degrees, Big Trout Lake -1, Sioux Lookout 0, and Thunder Bay as well. Moving to the center, Churchill -6, Thompson -2, Barons River 1, Gimli 2, North Battleford -1, Regina 3 degrees, Uranium City -5, La Ronge -2. Moving to the west, Fort Chipewyan -9, Fort McMurray -5, Edmonton -2, Calgary 4 degrees, Bella Coola 2, Kamloops 3, Dease Lake -1, Smithers 4, up to the north, Old Crow -23, Mayo -7, Norman Wells -9, Fort Simpson -7, Tuktoyaktuk -11, Colville Lake -6, Cambridge Bay -13, Chesterfield -3, Resolute -16, Igloolik -9. The northern Manitoba town of the Paw, next to the Opaskwayak Cree Nation, is welcoming a traveling exhibit with an Indigenous twist. It's a reflection from the first Canadian female astronaut, Roberta Bondar. Her photos taken from space, sky, and land across Canada advocate for threatened bird populations and the environments that sustain them. For the first time since its inception, the Patterns and Parallels exhibition were translated into 3 Indigenous languages spoken in northern Manitoba: Cree, aka Inimuin, Dene, and Anishinaamuin. Gabrielle Swan is the exhibit coordinator. She shares a bit about migratory patterns of birds in relation to Indigenous teachings. Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about what the exhibit is and why it's so important to include Indigenous knowledge carriers?
Absolutely. So the Patterns and Parallels exhibit is an initiative by Dr. Roberta Bondar, and it's featuring the migratory patterns of 3 birds that are on the extinction list. That's the whooping crane, the piping plover, and the lesser flamingo. And for Dr. Bondar, the mission is to really connect people with this kind of what's going on in the world and how our lives and how the world that we live in today impacts these creatures and these species that have, been around way longer than we have. So that was kind of the initial kind of interest in the project. And then for us being in the PAW and OCN area, it's very important that it's accessible to everybody in the region. We worked with UCN's IIR department, the Indigenous and Initiatives and Reconciliation Group, to make sure that we could translate it into areas that would resonate with the local Indigenous communities.
Mm-hmm. And, as a non-Indigenous person yourself, can you share why it was necessary for you to get the exhibition translated into Cree, Dene, and Anishinaamuin? I'm saying that wrong, I apologize.
For sure, absolutely. I'm obviously not Indigenous, and I've been living in the community for about 3.5 years, but this is an Indigenous community. So for us, we saw it as a really beautiful opportunity to give a gift to the Roberta Bondar Foundation, so that moving forward, when this exhibit travels to other locations, they always have the option of displaying it in these Indigenous languages as well. And realistically, when it comes to the reconciliation aspect of being a non-Indigenous person on Indigenous land, I think the very first way that you can honor Indigenous people is by presenting something to them in their own language. So we wanted to make sure that we were taking that first step.
And I believe the proper way to say it is Anishinaamuin, and that's basically Ojibwe. So,
well, I appreciate you teaching me how to say that properly, because I feel like I struggle as well.
Can you tell us some of the knowledge that they, the carriers that worked on this project with you taught you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we worked with Star Birdie from Cross Lake, who did the translation into Cree. We worked with Tanya McDougall, who did and I know you just taught me, but I'm still maybe going to say it wrong, Anishinaamuin translation, and Glenn Sesson to do the Dene translations. So basically the exhibit is featuring 53 different images of art, and those are fine art photography pieces. Some of them are taken by NASA through satellites in outer space, so you're able to actually see the migration patterns from the top level. The others were taken from helicopter, so kind of like where the birds are flying, and then the others were on the ground in kind of the nesting areas. So one of the things that Dr. Bondar had shared with us when we met her was that it was really important to pay homage to the Indigenous knowledge keepers that came before us. So one of the really cool things that Glenn did for us was he also did an audio recording of the Dene translation. So for us, it was really about making sure we're connecting with that history, because for generations, the migratory patterns of birds have been holding deep meaning within Indigenous oral histories and teachings, which was something that I didn't have any aware of, and I assume there's probably lots of other people in our community that also don't know about that. So that was one of the aspects that we really learned through the translations and the support from Star, Tanya, and Glenn.
This really sounds exciting. Finally, what's next for the exhibit?
Yeah, so the exhibit's going to be on display at UCN the Paw campus in the Tri-Community from November 27th, 2025 until March 14th, 2026. So for anybody who's listening that doesn't live in the Tri-Community area in northern Manitoba, there's lots of time for you to come visit us and experience the exhibit for yourself. Once it leaves us on March 14th, it'll be going, or I should say migrating to Kenora, Ontario. So the people in Kenora will be able to experience that as well.
I just want to thank you for your time today, and don't forget to say hi to my family back home.
Absolutely, TR. Thank you so much for your time.
And I'll be migrating from the seat very shortly, as that's your APTN National News for this Wednesday. Join me again at 6 p.m. Eastern for the latest news updates. I'm TR Wheatley, and it's been a pleasure to be here with you. From all of us at APTN National News to all of you, Egase ki Tom, kikawapamit dinanaw.